The mining station on Kepler 442b looked like a metal wound on the planet's red surface. Commander Zixtel watched it through his ship's window as he flew closer. His orders were simple: check the station, file a report, and leave. The Hegemony Council didn't care much about this far corner of space. It was just another routine patrol. Zixtel landed his ship near the main building. The station was quiet. Too quiet. His forearms moved over the control panel, checking the sensors. Life signs showed inside the building, but something felt wrong. He stepped out of his ship. The air was thin but breathable. His boots made soft sounds on the dusty ground. The mining equipment sat still and silent. No workers moved between the machines. No voices called out. Just the wind blowing dust across empty paths. The main door was open. Zixtel drew his weapon and walked inside. The hallway was dark, except for emergency lights that made red shadows on the walls. He moved forward, listening carefully. Then he heard it, a voice, speaking in pain. "I already told you everything I know." The voice was female, speaking in the human language that Zixtel had learned during his training. "Humans always lie," came another voice, this one rough and cold. Zixtel knew that voice belonged to a Skarn. "Tell us about the other survey sites. Where are your people planning to dig next?" Zixtel moved closer to the sound. Through a doorway, he could see into a storage room. A human female sat tied to a chair. Her brown hair was messy, and blood ran from a cut on her forehead. 3 Skarn soldiers stood around her. One held a shock rod that sparked with electricity. The human woman looked young, maybe 30 years old by human standards. She wore the simple clothes of a miner, but Zixtel noticed something strange. Her boots were military grade. Her hands had calluses that came from weapons training, not just mining tools. Sarah Chen, mining supervisor, one of the Skarn, read from a datapad. "Earth Colonial Administration says you've been here for 6 months. But we think you're lying about more than just mineral locations." The woman, Sarah, lifted her head. "I dig rocks and file reports. That's all I do." The Skarn with the shock rod moved closer. "Wrong answer." Zixtel felt something twist in his stomach. His species, the Veltar, had a strong sense of honor. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves. It was written in their oldest laws and stories. But his orders were clear. Don't get involved with primitive species affairs. The shock rod touched Sarah's shoulder. She screamed and her body went stiff. The Skarn laughed. Zixtel's hand tightened on his weapon. The Veltar honor code was older than the Hegemony Council. Older than his orders. "Please," Sarah whispered. "I don't know anything else." The second Skarn spoke. "The Hegemony wants to know how far humans plan to spread. Your people have been moving through space too fast, too organized. We need to know your real plans." "We just want places to live," Sarah said. "New worlds for new families. That's all. Lies." The shock rod sparked again. Zixtel made his choice. He stepped into the room with his weapon raised. "Release the prisoner." The 3 Skarn turned toward him. They were big, even bigger than Zixtel. Their skin looked like gray leather and their teeth were sharp. But Zixtel had fought Skarn before. "Commander Zixtel," the leader said, "this is Hegemony business." "Walk away." I said, "Release her." The Skarn leader smiled, showing those sharp teeth. "You want to start a fight over one human?" They breathe like insects. There are billions of them. There is one here. She's under my protection now. The leader nodded to his soldiers. They raised their weapons. Zixtel was ready. The fight was fast and violent. Zixtel's 4 arms gave him an advantage. He could fire his weapon while using his other hands for cover and movement. The first Skarn went down quickly. The second tried to use Sarah as a shield, but Zixtal's aim was perfect. The third Skarn got close enough to swing a blade, but Zixtal caught the arm and broke it in less than 2 minutes. All 3 Skarn were dead. Zixtal cut Sarah's ropes with his knife. She rubbed her wrists and looked at him with dark eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Can you walk?" She stood up, a little shaky but strong. "Yes. Who are you?" "Commander Zixtal of the Hegemony Fleet. I will take you to safety." Sarah picked up a small device from the floor, her datapad. Zixtal noticed it was more advanced than normal mining equipment. The screen showed maps and numbers that looked like survey data, but there was something else. Symbols and codes that seemed military. "Is there anyone else here?" he asked. "No, I work alone." She looked at the dead Skarn. "They came 3 days ago. Said they had questions about my mining reports." "What kind of questions?" Sarah hesitated. "They wanted to know about other human colonies, about our plans for expansion. I told them I'm just a surveyor. I find rocks and dirt. I don't make policy for Earth." Zixtal studied her face. She was telling the truth, but not all of it. Her equipment was too good. Her reaction to the fight was too calm. She had watched him kill 3 armed soldiers and didn't seem shocked or afraid. "We should leave," he said. "More might come." "My data," Sarah said, holding up the device. "I need to get this back to Earth. 6 months of geological surveys. You can send it from my ship." They walked together toward the exit. Sarah moved well for someone who had been tortured. She favored her left side but kept up with Zixtal's pace. "Why did you help me?" she asked as they reached his ship. Zixtal paused at the door. "It was the right thing to do, even though I'm human. I heard the hegemony doesn't think much of my species. The hegemony thinks many things. I follow my own code." Sarah smiled for the first time since he found her. "Thank you, Commander. My people will remember this." As they lifted off from the planet, Zixtal didn't know that he had just changed the course of galactic history. He thought he had simply saved 1 life. But Sarah Chun was more than she seemed, and the data she carried was worth more than just mining rights. The war was already starting, and Zixtal had just picked a side. The Hegemony station hung in space like a giant metal flower. Its 5 arms stretched out from the central hub, each one bigger than most ships. Zixtal had been here many times before, but today felt different. Sarah Chun sat quietly in his passenger seat, still holding her datapad. "Impressive," she said, looking at the station through the window. "It is one of our smaller outposts," Zixtal replied as he guided his ship toward the docking bay. "Smaller?" Sarah raised her eyebrows. "How big are your main bases?" Zixtal didn't answer. That information was classified. But he noticed how Sarah's eyes moved, taking in details about the station's design and defenses. For a simple miner, she asked very specific questions. They docked without problems. Station security scanned Zixtal's ship and found nothing unusual. Sarah had hidden her datapad inside her jacket. The guards barely looked at her. Just another primitive human that wasn't worth their attention. "I'll arrange transport to the nearest human colony," Zixtal told her as they walked through the station corridors. "Thank you. My people will be worried." They had almost reached the civilian transport section when Zixtal heard his name over the station speakers. "Commander Zixtal, report to Council Chamber 7 immediately. Priority Alpha." Priority Alpha meant emergency. Zixtal felt his stomach tighten. "Wait here," he told Sarah. "I'll be back soon." Council Chamber 7 was in the security section of the station. Zixtal had only been there twice before, both times for classified briefings. The door recognized his genetic pattern and opened with a soft hiss. 3 figures sat at the curved table inside. Admiral Corthan of the Hegemony Fleet, Director Velmuth of Intelligence, and General Saxel of Internal Security. This was not a routine meeting. Commander Zixtil, Admiral Corthan's voice was cold. Please explain why you killed 3 hegemony operatives yesterday. The words hit Zixtil like a physical blow. Sir, they were Skarn soldiers attacking a civilian. They were intelligence agents conducting an authorized interrogation, Director Velmoth said. Her multiple eyes stared at Zixtal without blinking. You interfered with a classified operation. I saw 3 soldiers torturing a helpless prisoner. I acted according to Veltar Honor Code. General Saxo leaned forward. His species looked like living stone, and his voice rumbled like an earthquake. Your honor code doesn't override hegemony authority. Those agents were gathering critical intelligence about human expansion activities. The woman was a miner. She was conducting geological surveys. The woman, Admiral Corthan said slowly, is Sarah Chun, Chief Colonial Scout for the Earth Administration. She has personally selected 47 worlds for human colonization over the past 8 years. She carries in her head the complete strategic plan for human expansion in this sector of the galaxy. The chamber went quiet. Zixtil felt the blood drain from his face. That's not possible. She said she was just a mining supervisor. Humans are very good at lying, Director Velmoth said. We have been monitoring their expansion for decades. They move slowly, carefully, but with clear purpose. Every new colony is placed strategically. Every trade route is planned. Every diplomatic contact is recorded and analyzed. They're preparing for something, General Saxel added. We don't know what, but their behavior patterns suggest military planning. Long-term military planning. Admiral Corthan activated a holographic display. Stars and planets appeared in the air, connected by glowing lines. This is human space 12 years ago. The display changed. This is human space now. More stars, more connections, spreading like a growing web. And this is our projection for the next 50 years. The web covered 1/3 of the known galaxy. We have been working to slow their expansion, Director Velmoth continued. Subtle sabotage. Economic pressure. And when necessary, direct interrogation of key personnel. Like Sarah-chan. She was supposed to disappear, General Saxo said. The mining station was attacked by pirates. Tragic accident. No survivors. But instead, you saved her and brought her here. Zixtil's mind raced. If she's so important, why was she alone on a mining station? Because humans use their most valuable people as bait, Admiral Corthan said. They knew we were watching. They sent their chief scout to an isolated location, knowing we would try to capture her. They wanted to see how we would react. And now they know, Director Velmoth added. Thanks to you, they know we consider them a threat. They know we've been interfering with their expansion. They know we're afraid of them. The element of surprise is gone, General Saxel rumbled. Decades of careful intelligence work, ruined. Zixtil felt sick. I was trying to save an innocent life. There are no innocent humans, Admiral Corthan said. Their entire species is a weapon. They breed fast, adapt quickly, and never give up. Every human colony is a potential military base. Every human trader is a potential spy. Every human diplomat is gathering intelligence. What happens now? Zixtil asked. Now we wait, Director Velmoth said. Sarah Chun is probably sending her report to Earth at this moment. Soon, the human leadership will know everything that happened. They'll know we tortured one of their people. They'll know we consider them enemies. Will they declare war? The 3 senior officers looked at each other. Finally, Admiral Corthan spoke. Humans don't declare war the way other species do. They don't send formal challenges or make dramatic speeches. When humans decide to fight, they simply start fighting. And they don't stop until they win. How long do we have? Zixtil asked. Unknown, General Saxel said. Human military doctrine favors long preparation periods, followed by overwhelming coordinated attacks. They might move tomorrow. They might wait 10 years. But they will move. Your actions have consequences, Commander, Admiral Corthan said. You chose to save one life. You may have doomed billions. Director Velma stood up. Report to detention, level 5. You're confined pending a full investigation. As security guards escorted Zixto from the chamber, his last thought was of Sarah Chun. Where was she now? Had she really sent a report to Earth? And if she had, what would happen next? He had saved her because it was the right thing to do. But right and wrong seemed much more complicated now. In the civilian section of the station, Sarah Chun finished encrypting her message and sent it toward Earth through a quantum communication relay. The message contained more than just her geological surveys. It contained detailed scans of the hegemony station, security protocols, and personnel files she had accessed while Zixto was in his meeting. She looked out the window at the stars and spoke quietly to herself. Message sent. Phase 1 complete. Beginning Phase 2. The war had already started. The hegemony just didn't know it yet. The message came exactly 7 days after Sarah Chum left the hegemony station. It didn't arrive through normal diplomatic channels or trade networks. Instead, it broadcast simultaneously across every hegemony communication frequency in the galaxy. Admiral Corthan was reviewing patrol reports when every screen in his office went black. Then words appeared, written in perfect hegemony standard. The formal language used for all official business. To the Hegemony Council and all member species. We are the humans of Earth. You have sanctioned the torture of our citizen, Sarah Chun. You have declared yourselves enemies of humanity. We are coming. The message was short, simple, and absolutely terrifying. Corthan immediately contacted the other members of the Emergency Council. Within an hour, they were gathered in the main briefing room. Representatives from 12 species sat around the holographic display table. All of them looked worried. How did they penetrate our communications? Demanded General Saxel. Director Velmoth manipulated her datapad with 6 thin fingers. They didn't penetrate anything. They overrode everything. Every relay station, every military frequency, every civilian network. The signal came from everywhere at once. That's impossible, said Ambassador Thekra of the Mindari Consortium. No species has that level of technological coordination. Apparently humans do, Velmoth replied. They're bluffing, Admiral Corthan said, but his voice didn't sound confident. Humans have maybe 50 worlds and a few hundred ships. We have thousands of worlds and millions of ships. They can't threaten the entire hegemony. Sir, a young officer interrupted from the communication station. We're getting reports from across the galaxy. Human ships are moving. Moving how? All of them. Every human vessel we've been tracking has changed course in the last 6 hours. Civilian transports, trade ships, exploration vessels. They're all converging on staging areas near hegemony borders. Director Velmoth's multiple eyes widened. How many ships? We don't know, sir. Our estimates may have been wrong. Admiral Corthan felt cold fear in his stomach. Show me the tracking data. The holographic display changed to show known space. Little dots represented ships, blue for hegemony vessels, red for human ships. There were far more red dots than there should have been. This can't be accurate, Ambassador Thekra said. We've been monitoring human ship construction for decades. What if we've been monitoring decoys? Velmoth asked quietly. The room went silent. General Saxel leaned forward. Explain. Human ships all look the same to our sensors. Modular construction, similar energy signatures, standardized hull materials. What if they've been building real warships disguised as civilian vessels? For how long? Admiral Corthan asked. Since first contact, probably. 37 years. A new voice spoke from the communication station. Sirs, we have another problem. Economic centers across the hegemony are reporting market instabilities. What kind of instabilities? Commodity prices are collapsing. Trade agreements are being canceled. Banking networks are experiencing coordinated attacks. It started about an hour ago, and it's spreading. Admiral Cortham called up financial data on his personal screen. The numbers were catastrophic. Critical materials were becoming worthless overnight. Currency exchange rates were swinging wildly. Supply chains were breaking down. This is economic warfare, he said. Humans have been embedding themselves in our economic systems for decades. Every human trader, every human bank representative, every human business consultant, Director Velmoth added. They've been preparing for this day. Ambassador Thekra stood up from the table. I need to contact my government immediately. The Mindari economy depends on stable trade with hegemony worlds. Sir, the communication officer called again. Priority message from the Outer Rim Defense Fleet. Admiral Corthan accepted the transmission. The face of Fleet Commander Yorthil appeared in the hologram. He looked scared. Admiral, we have a problem. The humans at Epsilon Station have taken control of our orbital defense platforms. That's impossible. Epsilon Station only has a small human trade delegation. 12 humans, sir. But they've somehow gained administrative access to our entire defense grid. They're demanding we evacuate the system within 72 hours. How many humans are in the system total? According to our records, about 3,000 civilians scattered across various trade outposts and research facilities. And they've taken control of defenses that protect 2 billion hegemony citizens? Yes, sir. Admiral Corthan cut the transmission and looked around the table. Every face showed the same expression. They had all badly underestimated humanity. Get me intelligence reports on every human in hegemony space, he ordered. I want to know where they are, what they're doing, and how long they've been there. Director Velmoth worked quickly on her data systems. The results appeared on the main display within minutes. Red dots marked human presence throughout hegemony territory. There were thousands of them. They're everywhere, General Saxel said. Research stations, trade posts, diplomatic missions, cultural exchanges. They've been infiltrating us for decades. And we let them, Admiral Corthan said bitterly. We thought they were harmless, primitive. We gave them access to our technology, our economics, our infrastructure. The cultural exchange programs, Ambassador Thekra realized. Human students have been studying at our best universities for 20 years, learning our science, our engineering, our military doctrine. The research partnerships, added Director Velmoth. Humans have had access to our medical databases, our communication protocols, our computer systems. They've been studying us, General Saxel said, learning everything about how we think, how we fight, how we organize ourselves. A new alarm sounded in the briefing room. The communication officer looked up with panic in his eyes. Sirs, we just lost contact with 17 frontier outposts. No distress signals. They just went dark. Attacks? Unknown. The last transmissions were normal, routine reports. Then nothing. Admiral Corthan stood up and walked to the display. The red dots representing human presence seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, or like a countdown timer. How did we miss this? He asked. How did an entire species prepare for war under our noses? Because they think differently than we do, Director Velmoth said. Most species prepare for war by building bigger weapons and more ships. Humans prepared by becoming part of the system they planned to fight. They've been fighting this war for 37 years, General Saxel added. We just didn't know we were the enemy. What do we do now? Ambassador Thekra asked. Admiral Corthan looked at the star map showing human ship movements. The red dots were moving in perfect coordination, like parts of a single organism. It was beautiful and terrifying. Now we find out what humans do when they stop pretending to be harmless. On Earth, in a secure facility buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, Sarah Chun stood before a wall of monitors showing the galaxy. Every human asset was reporting in. Every phase of the plan was proceeding on schedule. Phase 2 complete, she said to the room full of military officers and intelligence analysts. All hegemony communications compromised. Economic disruption at 60% effectiveness. Strategic assets secured. Casualties? Asked the director of Human Defense Force. Minimal. They still think we're not a real threat. Good. Begin Phase 3. Sarah smiled. The hegemony had made a simple mistake. They thought that torturing one human would only anger one human. They didn't understand that humanity was not just a species. It was a family. And when you hurt one member of a human family, you made an enemy of all of them. Yes, sir. Initiating total warfare protocols. Every human in the galaxy is now a weapon. Admiral Corthan hadn't slept in 3 days. The hegemony's greatest military minds stood in the war room staring at a display that showed the slow collapse of everything he had spent his life protecting. Report, he said to the exhausted staff officers around him. 47 star systems have gone completely dark, Major Velkim said. No communications, no trade, no transport. It's like they just stopped existing. Enemy fleet movements? That's the problem, sir. We can't find any human fleets. Our deep space sensors show human ships moving toward these systems, but they disappear before we can track them to their destinations. Admiral Corthan rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. Ships don't just disappear. These do, sir. They approach a system, then vanish from our sensors completely. 6 hours later, that system goes dark. General Saxel entered the war room carrying a datapad. His stone-like face looked grim even by his species standards. Admiral, I have the preliminary reports from the systems that went dark yesterday. Survivors? No, that's not exactly right. There are survivors, but Saxel paused. It would be easier to show you. The main display changed to show a transmission from Turius Prime, one of the hegemony's major industrial worlds. The image was shaky, clearly recorded on a personal device rather than official equipment. A hegemony citizen appeared on screen. His species looked like tall, thin reptiles with green-scaled skin. He was clearly terrified. This is Administrator Kexel on Tertius Prime, the humans. They didn't attack us the way we expected. They didn't bomb our cities or land troops. They just turned everything off. The image shook as explosions rumbled in the background. First, they took control of our computer networks, all of them. Banking, transportation, life support, manufacturing, defense. Everything connected to a computer system now belongs to them. More explosions, closer this time. Then they started changing things. Factory machines began making weapons instead of consumer goods. Transportation systems rerouted everything to human-controlled areas. The power grid began shutting down piece by piece. The administrator looked directly into the camera. But the worst part is what they did to our people. Somehow they accessed our medical databases. They know everything about our biology, our psychology, our social structures. They're broadcasting targeted propaganda directly to different groups. The transmission cut to static. How many worlds lost like this? Admiral Corthan asked. All of them. General Saxel replied. Every system that's gone dark follows the same pattern. The humans don't destroy infrastructure. They take control of it. They don't kill populations. They turn them against their own governments. Impossible. You can't control an entire star system with computer viruses. You can if you spend 40 years secretly building backdoors into every major system, Director Velmuth said as she entered the war room. We've been analyzing the human infiltration pattern. Every piece of technology they've sold us, every software update they've provided, every consultation service they've offered, all of it contained hidden access codes. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Watch this. The display showed time-compressed data of human technological integration into hegemony space over the past 4 decades. Human systems connected to hegemony networks like growing vines, spreading through trade routes, research partnerships, and cultural exchange programs. They've been building a shadow infrastructure inside our infrastructure, Velmuth continued. Every time we adopted their convenient communication protocols or their efficient logistics software, we gave them deeper access to our core systems. Admiral Corthan stared at the display. How did our intelligence services miss this? Because they hid it inside legitimate business relationships. Human companies provided real services and real benefits. Their technology actually worked better than ours in many cases. We became dependent on their systems because their systems were genuinely superior. It's worse than that, said a new voice. Commander Zixtel entered the war room under armed escort. He had been released from detention to provide intelligence about his contact with Sarah Chun. Commander, Admiral Corthan acknowledged. Your perspective? The humans I met at the station wasn't afraid of being tortured, Zixtel said. She was gathering intelligence. She let herself be captured to see how we would respond. You think it was planned? I think everything has been planned, sir. The mining operation, the Scar interrogation, my patrol route, even my decision to intervene. They know us better than we know ourselves. Director Velmuth nodded. Our psychological profiles. They've been studying how different species think and react for decades. They can predict our responses to specific situations. It gets worse, General Saxo added. We've detected biological agents in 17 different systems. Not weapons exactly, but viruses specifically designed to target the biochemistry of different hegemony species. Disease warfare? Targeted disease warfare. Each virus affects only one species and causes specific psychological effects. Depression in Mindari, aggression in Skan, paranoia in Veltar. The viruses don't kill, they just make populations unable to function effectively. Admiral Corthan sat down heavily in his command chair. How long would it take to develop such specific biological weapons? Decades of research, Velmuth said. They would need detailed genetic samples from every hegemony species, advanced laboratory facilities, and extensive testing protocols, all of which they've had access to through medical exchange programs and research partnerships, Zixtel realized. They've been preparing to fight us since the day we met them. General Saxel said. The communication panel chimed with an urgent message. Major Velkim read the display and went pale. Sirs, we have a priority transmission from Earth. They're requesting direct communication with the Hegemony High Council. Patch it through, Admiral Corthan ordered. The main display activated and showed a human female in military uniform. She stood in what appeared to be a command center with dozens of humans working at computer stations behind her. Admiral Corthan, I am Directive Sarah Chan of Earth Defense Force. We need to talk. Admiral Corthan felt his blood freeze. It was the same human Zixtel had rescued, but she looked completely different. No longer a helpless victim, she radiated authority and confidence. You lied about who you were, he said. No, Admiral. I told you exactly who I was. I am Sarah Chung. I do conduct geological surveys. I just didn't mention that I also design military strategies for the complete conquest of hostile civilizations. What do you want? To prevent unnecessary suffering. The hegemony has 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you surrender, we will ensure fair treatment for all hegemony citizens and allow your species to maintain cultural autonomy under human administration. And if we refuse? Sarah's expression didn't change. Then we will demonstrate why every intelligent species in this galaxy will eventually choose to join the human family voluntarily or be absorbed involuntarily. You're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. Numbers only matter if you're fighting the same kind of war, Admiral. We're not fighting your war. You're fighting ours. And you've been losing for 40 years without knowing it. The transmission ended. Admiral Corthan looked around the war room at his senior staff. They were the best military minds the hegemony had produced. They commanded fleets that could destroy star systems. They had never lost a war. Options? He asked. We could try to fight, General Saxel said without conviction. How do you fight? An enemy that controls your own weapons? We could try to negotiate, suggested Director Velmoth. From what position? They hold all the advantages. We could surrender, Commander Zixtel said quietly. Everyone looked at him. I've been thinking about human psychology since my encounter with Sarah Chun, he continued. They value honor, loyalty, and protection of the innocent. They didn't start this war for conquest or resources. They started it because we hurt one of their people. Your point? Admiral Corthan asked. Maybe if we surrender and prove we can learn to respect their values, they'll show mercy. Admiral. Corthan stared at the tactical display showing the spreading collapse of hegemony space. Every option ended in human victory. The only question was how much destruction would happen before they admitted defeat. Prepare a message to the High Council, he said finally. Request emergency session to discuss surrender terms. In the depths of space, human fleets that had been hiding for decades in asteroid fields and nebulae began moving toward their final targets. The war was almost over, and it had never really been a war at all. It had been an execution. Commander Zixtel woke up in a cell that was too clean and too comfortable to be a normal prison. The walls were white metal with soft lighting. A bed with real pillows sat against one wall. A small table held food that smelled appealing and water that looked pure. He had been captured 3 days ago, when human forces took the hegemony station. There had been no battle. One moment the station was under hegemony control. The next moment, humans were walking through the corridors carrying weapons and giving orders. They had been polite but firm. Commander Zixtel? A voice said in perfect Veltar language. Zixtel looked up to see a human female standing outside his cell. She looked young, with short black hair and dark eyes. She wore a simple gray uniform without military decorations. I am Lieutenant Park. Admiral Chun would like to speak with you. The cell door opened silently. No force fields, no alarms. Just an ordinary door. Am I a prisoner? Zixtel asked. That depends on what you choose to do next, Lieutenant Park replied. Please follow me. They walked through corridors that had once belonged to the hegemony, but now clearly served human purposes. Zixtel saw humans working alongside members of different alien species. Some he recognized as former hegemony citizens. Others he didn't recognize at all. Who are they? He asked, pointing to a group of tall, thin beings with blue skin. Refugees from the Outer Rim. Their species was enslaved by the hegemony about 50 years ago. We freed them last week. Enslaved? The hegemony doesn't practice slavery. Lieutenant Park stopped walking and looked at him. What would you call forced labor with no pay, no freedom of movement, and no legal rights? Zixtel frowned. Economic development programs. The hegemony helps primitive species learn to contribute to galactic civilization. By taking away their freedom and forcing them to work in mines and factories, they receive food, shelter, and education in return for their labor. So do slaves, Commander. The difference is choice. They continued walking. Zixtel thought about what Lieutenant Park had said. He had never questioned the hegemony's economic development programs. They had always been presented as charitable efforts to help younger species. They entered a large room with windows that looked out into space. Admiral Sarah Chun stood with her back to them, watching ships move past the station. She turned when they entered. "Commander Zixtel, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" "You always have choices. That's what makes you different from many of your colleagues." Sarah gestured to a comfortable chair. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Zixtel remained standing. "Are you going to execute me for war crimes?" "What war crimes?" "I served the hegemony. I followed orders. I participated in the oppression of other species." Sarah smiled sadly. "Commander, you saved my life when your orders told you not to. You chose to protect someone weaker than yourself when it would have been easier to walk away. Those aren't the actions of a war criminal. But I served a system that enslaved entire species. So did many humans once upon a time. So did many members of every species that has ever existed. The question isn't what system you served in the past. The question is what you choose to do now that you know the truth." Sarah walked to the window and pointed to the ships outside. "Do you know what those ships are carrying?" Zixtel looked. Dozens of vessels moved in formation, some human, some clearly of alien design. Supplies? Troops? Refugees. Former slaves being taken to new homes where they can live freely. Medical aid for species whose health was damaged by industrial work. Teachers to help educate children who were never allowed to learn. You're liberating the entire hegemony? We're liberating everyone who wants to be liberated. And we're stopping everyone who wants to keep slaves." Zixtel sat down heavily in the offered chair. "How many species were enslaved?" 47 that we know of. Probably more that we haven't found yet. The hegemony leaders said they were civilizing primitive species. Leaders often say things that make them feel better about their actions, Sarah said gently. The important thing is recognizing the truth when you see it. Lieutenant Park brought Zixtel a cup of something that smelled like the ceremonial tea from his home world. He sipped it and was surprised by how accurately the humans had reproduced the flavor. "What happens to me now?" he asked. "That depends on what you want to happen." "I want to understand." "Why did you start this war?" "Really?" Sarah sat down across from him. "Because you tortured one of our people to maintain a system of oppression. Because the hegemony represents everything humans have learned to fight against in our own history. One person? You started a galactic war over one person. Commander, let me ask you something. If someone captured and tortured your closest family member, what would you do?" "I would kill them, even if they were more powerful than you?" "Yes, even if it meant risking your own life?" "Yes, even if it meant other people might get hurt in the fighting?" Zixtel paused. Yes, family is worth any risk. That's how humans think about every human. And eventually, about everyone who proves they deserve protection." Sarah stood up and walked back to the window. "When we first met other species, we hoped to find friends and allies. Instead, we found predators who saw us as prey, and a galactic civilization built on oppression and slavery. So you decided to destroy it. No, we decided to fix it." Zixtel looked up sharply. "Fix it? The hegemony will continue to exist, Commander. But it will exist as a voluntary association of free species working together for mutual benefit. No more slaves. No more forced labor. No more economic development programs that strip entire worlds of resources and freedom. The Hegemony Council will never agree to that. The Hegemony Council no longer has a choice. Most of them are in detention centers like this one, being educated about the difference between civilization and exploitation." Lieutenant Park spoke up. "Some of them are adapting well to the new system. Admiral Vexstar has been very helpful in organizing refugee resettlement programs. Admiral Vexstar was one of the most ruthless commanders in the hegemony fleet. Zixtel said, in shock. People can change when they understand the consequences of their actions, Sarah said. We've shown him videos of the species his forces enslaved, the families that were separated, the children who died in forced labor camps. Now he spends his time trying to make amends. And if he had refused to change? Sarah's expression hardened. Then he would have been permanently removed from any position where he could harm others. You would have killed him. We don't kill people for refusing to change their minds, Commander. But we do remove their ability to hurt others, permanently. Zixtel set down his teacup. What do you want from me? We want you to help us build something better. Your people, the Veltar, have a strong sense of honor and justice. We need leaders who understand the difference between protecting people and controlling them. And if I refuse, then you'll be transported to a comfortable facility where you can live peacefully for the rest of your life. You'll have food, shelter, entertainment, and the company of other former hegemony officers who made the same choice. A prison, a retirement home. The difference is in how you choose to see it. Zixtel stood up and walked to the window. The ships outside were moving with purpose and coordination, but there was something different about them. They weren't military formations designed for conquest. They were rescue operations designed for liberation. Why did you really save my life on that mining station? He asked Sarah. Because you were in danger and I could help, but you knew I was hegemony military. Yes. You knew I had probably participated in actions you considered evil. Yes. So why save me? Sarah joined him at the window. Because evil actions don't make someone an evil person, Commander. They make someone a person who hasn't learned better yet. Everyone deserves a chance to learn. Even hegemony officers who enslaved entire species. Even them. As long as they're willing to use that knowledge to help rather than harm. Zixtel watched a ship full of refugees dock with the station. Through the windows, he could see families reuniting, children laughing, people crying with relief and joy. The universe is going to be very different now, he said. Yes, it is. The question is whether you want to help shape that difference for the better. Zixtel thought about the choice Sarah was offering him. He could spend the rest of his life comfortable but powerless, or he could learn to build something better than what he had spent his life defending. What would my duties be? Help us understand hegemony administrative systems so we can transition them to voluntary participation. Help us identify which former hegemony officials can be trusted with authority and which ones need to be removed. Help us design new governance structures that protect individual freedom while maintaining interstellar cooperation. You want me to help dismantle everything I once served. We want you to help transform it into something worth serving. Zixtel was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to face Sarah. On my world, there is an old saying, the greatest honor is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I thought I was doing that by serving the hegemony. I was wrong. Being wrong isn't a crime, Commander. Refusing to admit it when you learn the truth, that's a crime. I accept your offer, Admiral Chun. I will help you build this new galaxy. Sarah extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement.